That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you read the title correctly. Today, FLW Videos is covering PvP content. Now, I know you might be saying to yourself, whoa, FLW Videos doesn't even PvP. To which I would counter that argument with this rainbow badge that I got from playing in a tournament and then sweeping it, pulling out the W. But all jokes aside, I haven't been able to invest as much time into PvP lately, and then I'm actually in a community that just doesn't compete in this. I would have to go very far to be able to do it. Right now, I'm not able to put as much of a focus into it, but at the same time though, I want to provide value to you. So today, we are going to be talking about the top 12 Pokemon in the Great League that are worth having. That doesn't even necessarily mean that you are going to have to invest a ton of Stardust into these Pokemon. Some of them are actually on the cheaper end when you start talking about some of the starters, but we are going to be covering the top 12, and I'm going to be giving some of my personal experiences and then also taking a look at some of these Pokemon if I have them on a team. But anyways, I hope you do enjoy this video. If you do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So the Pokemon Go Hub team ended up covering a very interesting article related to the top 12 Great League Pokemon. And what I'm going to do is provide some alternative options to it and then dive even deeper and give you the ideal movesets to these 12 Pokemon that we end up selecting. So I really like how they broke this down into different categories. I think that it's going to make a lot more sense to look at it this way as opposed to just saying, hey, here's going to be the top 12 Pokemon. We're going to focus on how to actually use these Pokemon. That way you can get the best out of them. The first situation is going to be the lead. That simply means the Pokemon that you want to start with. And we have Skarmory, Deoxys defense form, and then Altaria. When we move into the second group, we've got the closers. These are the Pokemon that make a lot of sense to kind of have as an anchor Pokemon. And as far as these Pokemon are concerned, and you're in a situation where you have no shields, you're going to want to go with Venusaur, Azumarill, and then Umbreon. Let their stats do the work on that defense and then stamina side. Umbreon's going to be interesting to talk about when we dive in deep to each of these Pokemon individually. Up next, we have these attackers. Now, man, these Pokemon are just beasts in PvP. We've got Bastiodon, Medicham, and then Swampert. I think an interesting situation would be to talk about Swampert versus Marshtomp and then why Swampert is ultimately the better option. And then finally, we have the defenders. We've got Lantern, Fortress, and then Vigoroth. Vigoroth, very interested in that. I didn't get to use it, but I do like it because of its moveset, which we will end up talking about. So now that we have all of these Pokemon into the different categories, let's go ahead and dive in deep to each of these Pokemon and then give you the ideal moveset. So up first, for the openers, we have Skarmory. It's a good idea to use the different combinations of Air Slash and Sky Attack as well as Flash Cannon, but for the most part, people tend to opt to go the Sky Attack route. So you don't necessarily have to open up a secondary charge move. That's completely up to you. In this case, I've just gone with either Steel Wing, Air Slash, and then Sky Attack. And then, of course, in your community, it really just depends. If people aren't that invested in PvP, you're not necessarily forced to have a secondary charge move. In this case, with Skarmory, Sky Attack is a beast, so just kind of keep that in mind. Moving on, we've got the Deoxys defense form. Now, this is something that I actually recently just invested into, getting it up to the correct CP, right up to 1500. Ultimately wasn't that expensive. The real expensive part is going to be unlocking the secondary charge move because it is a mythical Pokemon / legendary. It's going to cost 100 candies, 100,000 Stardust, so you're going to have to really be invested into PvP. So maybe hold off on that until you are for sure interested in it and you want to go that route. But as far as the ideal movesets are concerned, we've got Counter, Psycho Boost, and then Rock Slide. Definitely a good one. But hey, you could go Thunderbolt if you want to instead of Rock Slide, but I think that Rock Slide is considered to be the more common option that people end up going with. Up next is Altaria. Now, Altaria is one that I'm actually very familiar with. I also have a shiny variation that I've used for PvP just for fun. But as far as the moveset is concerned, we have Dragon Breath, Sky Attack, and then Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse, not necessarily the greatest move. You could go with another one if you want to, but Sky Attack is just so good. You want to make sure that you at least have that. Altaria is a solid option, so it is something that I would consider personally investing into if you're looking for just like the PvP starter pack. Now let's go to move on to the closers. We've got Azumarill. Now, Azumarill has been a beast. I have used it in multiple tournaments and really like Azumarill. A lot of other people do too, but as far as the movesets are concerned, you got Bubble, Ice Beam, and then Play Rough. Those are great. And then if you want to go for the stab on it from the water typing, you could go with Hydro Pump instead. I have opted to go about it from this route. And something kind of cool was that I did get the pre-evolution in an egg, and because of that, I was able to unlock a secondary charge move for only 10,000 Stardust. So in some ways, Azumarill is a little bit of a budget from just the unlocking a move perspective. Not necessarily powering it up, because you got to get it up to like level 36 or so for you to be around that 1500 CP. At the same time though, you can unlock a move fairly cheaply because of that 10,000 Stardust. So just keep Azumarill in your mind. Up next, we have Venusaur. Now, Venusaur is going to be good specifically for the Community Day moveset of Frenzy Plant. But I honestly think that there is another solid alternative to Venusaur in Meganium. I used Meganium in the Rainbow Tournament where I was able to pull off a victory. People did not expect anyone to use Meganium. And to be honest, they have very similar stats. Of course, they are going to differ a little bit as far as the typing is concerned. But I like Meganium because it had access to Earthquake, and it could help me out with a couple of different typings, such as versus the Electric type, which I just didn't have any other Pokemon during the Rainbow Cup to really take out those Electric type Pokemon, since Electric type is only weak to the ground typing. So maybe think about those two Pokemon. Venusaur is definitely considered to be the conventional option, the one that everyone wants to use, but I'm here to say that I personally had very good results with Meganium, so maybe consider using that one as well. Then finally, we have Umbreon. So something interesting about Umbreon is you are going to need the move Last Resort for it to make a lot of sense. And in the championship for PvP for Pokemon Go, we end up seeing King Ivy actually using Umbreon and using the move Last Resort, using the move Foul Play as well. So that is really cool. And then we also have the move Snarl, which recently got updated. I'm not necessarily going to say upgraded, but it has been updated recently for PvP. So it is at least slightly a little bit better. I have an Umbreon with Last Resort, but it is above 1500 CP, unfortunately. So this is something that I would like to work on. Maybe in December, I'll get another chance at it. When we move on to the third group, we have the attackers. Now, Bastiodon. This is a tricky one because Bastiodon is very expensive if you want to look at it in Pokemon Go, because number one, it costs a lot to unlock a secondary charge move, and then you're having to go up in such high levels that it just costs a lot. Anytime you have a Pokemon kind of maxing out around 1500 CP, it can be fairly expensive. So for Bastiodon, I would honestly see if you are interested in PvP before you commit to Bastiodon, just because it's a very expensive Pokemon. But as far as this moveset is concerned, Smackdown, Stone Edge, and then Flamethrower are going to be the best options that you want to go for in this way. Up next is Medicham. Now Medicham, as far as the movesets are concerned, you want to go with Counter, Power Up Punch, and then Ice Punch. You could potentially go with Psychic. Now Psychic has been upgraded, so that is kind of an option that we haven't really seen before. I mean, it's not going to be that much worse. For me personally, I actually have a shiny Medicham, but I am going to have to invest a lot into it because Medicham kind of peaks around that 1500 CP, so it's expensive as far as powering it up is concerned. I've had a lot of people advise to me that I should just hold onto my shiny and just wait for a better IV Medicham before I end up powering it up. So I actually do not have a Medicham that is ready for PvP in the Great League, but I'm always keeping an eye out for it. Up next is Swampert. So with Swampert, you could go with Mudshot, Hydro Cannon, and then Earthquake, or you could go the water route where you go with Water Gun, Hydro Cannon, and then Earthquake. But I've had a lot of people ask the question like, well, why is Swampert going to be better than Marshtomp? Technically, Marshtomp has better stats than what Swampert does, because Swampert has to be a really low level to qualify for the Great League, while Marshtomp gets to move up a little bit. But the reason why you end up seeing a move like, or a Pokemon like Swampert do better, is for this move alone. Swampert has access to Hydro Cannon, and then Marshtomp simply does not. And because of that, Swampert's able to get out so much more damage with Hydro Cannon. So if you're curious as to why that is the situation, there you go. And then finally, we have the fourth and final category known as the Defenders. We've got Lantern, and if you want to use it, go Water Gun, Thunderbolt, and then Hydro Pump. I have seen a lot of people go about it from the Charge Beam route, but as you can see, the charge moves are all staying the same between them. It's just a preference as far as the quick moves are concerned. But hey, we've all got fast TM, so switching them is not a big deal. It really is dependent on whatever type of cup that you play in. maybe it would end up making more sense to go the electric route. It's really going to depend on what you go up against, but regardless of that, you know that you have a safe bet with Thunderbolt as well as Hydro Pump. I like Lantern, think it is a fun Pokemon to use, so I'm definitely going to give it a seal of approval. And then up next, we have Fortress. So Fortress, the reason why I think a lot of people like Fortress is because it is only weak to the fire typing. That's definitely unique. I mean, you've got Scizork falling into the same category. But as far as its movesets are concerned, we got Bug Bite, Heavy Slam, and then Earthquake. I have Earthquake on mine. I haven't unlocked a secondary charge move yet. I almost used Fortress in a tournament, but I backed out last minute. Was like, nah, I'll keep it on my 6, but just could not commit to it. So it's one that I'm not as sold on. Maybe you can let me know in the comments section below why you do think I should be using Fortress, maybe besides the advantage of its typing. And then finally, we are going to have Vigoroth. So for Vigoroth, this is a beast. I do have one that's a shiny variation ready to go, but the reason why so many people like it is, one, you got counter as far as a fighting type move is concerned. Then you have Body Slam. You can spam Body Slam. Body Slam is a great way to just bait out shields because you can't get them off so quickly. And then you can use Bulldoze. I think it also has access to the move Brick Break. So it really just depends on how you want to use Vigoroth. But as far as the idle movesets are concerned, we've got Body Slam as well as Bulldoze as far as what Game Press is recommending. So that just about wraps up the video. To be honest, I was really glad to go ahead and cover this topic because what I think I struggled with the most was understanding exactly how to use the Pokemon and in what position. I was aware of what Pokemon were good, just not when to use them and then kind of like assigning them roles. So I was excited about that. But anyways, I want to go ahead and end on a question of the day. Do you have a Pokemon that you think is very good at PvP that was not listed on this list? Go ahead and let us know in the comments section below, and if you were looking for more ideas, head down to the comment section and see what people have to say. If you did enjoy it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you next time. If you want to develop a deeper connection, I would highly recommend you to check out Patreon. We've got a lot of really cool things going on over there. Check out all of these supporters that we have. We are almost up to 100. We are also posting some special content, some behind the scenes work. And if that is the type of thing that interests you, I would highly recommend you to check it out.